My goal in this video is to give you fast answers and be efficient, so let's give the answer right away. Why do pros say push and fight everything? The intent is to learn through trial and error, like someone sparring. The more you spar, well, the more you're going to learn through trial and error. But there's a major problem with this, and it's caused by miscommunication and language barrier. I'll admit I'm also a problem in this, and I want to help try to alleviate this and give you the tools to actually succeed and what this means. Now, in the latest spectating series, we see players play well, but also make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Here's two examples from the same player. In this example, they were using cover efficiently to ensure they didn't get hit by using a head glitch. And the next example, we see here that they were just standing right out in the open. Now, it's okay. It doesn't mean that they're a bad player. It can be very hard to be very consistent and find cover. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into an empty server, explain this concept in the exact same area, and we're going to go chapter by chapter of what pros mean when they say to push and fight, and how actually you're playing more defensive to actually succeed. So let's jump into it. All right, now let us begin this workshop. I want to begin, and we're going to put this in chapters. Now, this chapter is going to be talking about information. Information is very important whether or not you're actually going to fight something. Let's say that this zone is actually pulling all the way over here, and then you decide to fight this. You have to ask yourself if this is an intelligent fight to take. If you do decide to take it, you are either doing it because you're trying to have fun and you're just trying to practice your micro in terms of engagements, and that's okay. So when a pro says to fight everything, sure, then you can follow the guidelines in terms of trying to fight this encounter, which means that you're not overall trying to win the match, because if you're trying to win the match, you would go to zone. But again, if you're trying to have fun, I will never deter anybody from trying to have fun. The whole premise of this chapter is to make sure the information that you're being provided is smart to ensure that you can win. So let's talk about some additional information, and let's go through a checklist, all right? The checklist. Is this outside of zone? Tip number 2. Is the zone closing at the moment? Tip number 3. Do we have the necessary resources in our inventory? Do we have enough flush heals? Enough batteries to reset and engage on this fight? And of course, finally, what is your armor type and how is it looking? Granted, you're not a Pokemon, but let's say you're engaging on an encounter and you realize you're on all whites and the opponents are on all purples. That's very important information. Information is key on whether or not you can take this fight. Now, your positioning is also very important. We can almost title this variables. There's so many different variables and caveats to every scenario. So if we wanted to go black and white and say that you're going to fight everything, understand what that means and how that is going to be detrimental sometimes to your game sense and how you play. There's other factors in when it comes to playing Apex Legends, and I want everyone to fully understand that. Communication is very much key, so if your squad says they don't want to fight, they don't want to fight. If your team wants to fight, try to find a middle ground if you don't want to. And try to fight, because remember, the biggest step I can provide away is that your team has to play together. But information, as we come full circle, is very much key. So information, and let's go into the next chapter. Let us begin. One additional reminder is always look in your upper right side of the feed. How many squads are remaining based on the zone? And in the kill feed, if you can tell if a team is engaging or not. Information, information, information will always be your key guidance in terms of if you take a fight. Most pros will never tell you in terms of the thought process because they don't think about those things because that's their inherent game sense. This is just the extra tip to add on icing on the cake. So let's go into chapter 2. For chapter 2 of this engagement, it's very important to understand what are the rules in terms of when you can push without positioning or when you cannot. The checklist I'm going to have on screen as we talk this through. Number 1, do you have better armors? If you have better armors, well then it might be a fight that you can take. Number 2, have you done quite a bit of damage or obtain a knock? If number 2, if you've gotten that knock, it means that you're definitely going to be able to push. And of course, number 3, make sure that you have better positioning. If you have better positioning, then it can alleviate and give the information that you can stay and definitely take on this fight. And also, of course, number 4, the last one is this team being third-partied and are they paying attention to you or not? That's very important. So let's give an example based on each of these. We'll start with the beginning one, talking about just doing if you have better armors. Remember, just running out in the open towards a team, whichever way you're looking at it, this is a very hard push, which is why we're looking at it from both perspectives. If you look at it from this angle, you're still crossing out in the open without much information. Now, once they peek, they give information, but you're kind of standing out in the open. The reason I chose Rampart is if there was cover, like a rock, or even if you make your own cover, then of course, sure, this decision becomes a lot better. But the downside, again, is that you have to make sure that you're peeking from various angles and you're only allowed to cross when you've done damage. So remember our rule set. So if I've cracked them and they're no longer peeking, this lets me go forward. Now, if we go back again, if we say, are they reloading their guns, then you can move forward. Are they focused on another team and you see them third partying and not focused on you, you can move forward. If you decide to secure that space, remember there'll be another team over there. So all that information is key on whether or not you can cross or continue to push the fight. But remember, cover is very important, and cover can exist in different formats. So even if you're using cover, you can still head glitch different hills by peeking over, and only your head will be able to peer right up until you move towards the door, because their full body will be exposed and only half of yours will be exposed. You'll notice that a lot of pro players will show this level of disrespect by moving forward once they feel confident that they can win. If they don't feel confident they can win, positioning is always the most important thing. So remember all those variables. This is such a complex topic, and I apologize as we're trying to explain what it means to push and the rules of engagement. As long as you default to the rules and you're looking at your information, these variables will continue to adjust. So if we circle back to the main question, why do pros tell me to push everything? You have to remember information and rules. So we went through chapter 1 information, chapter 2 of rules. Now we have to always keep those rules in mind. They continue to change. So if we decide to move up and we realize the team is also third partying moving forward, we may not need to push this anymore. Now, if this isn't the zone closing in and we have to take it, then we're forced to move in and take this positioning no matter what. And we'll have to shove and then reset and then hold the building best we can and anchor. Now, based on your role, this is going to be the next chapter. Your role is very, very important to deciding whether or not you are going to be the one to first engage. So in that screenshot, you saw that the Watson was definitely further behind. This would be more anchor support. But remember, as anchor and support, if your person who's pushing is this far, at some point you're no longer going to be able to see them. You need to move and stay right with them to cover for your teammates. Team play is incredibly important. It's the most important factor in whether or not you can push. When pros play and they fight, they always make the assumption that their teammates are going to be nearby and fight with them. And by fighting, you're going to maintain a faster pressure and play together. If you're not used to fighting, then sometimes you might accidentally lose your teammates from further behind. Now, the idea behind this, if you keep practicing, you'll always maintain momentum. You'll know to go from cover to cover and from position to position. And if one doesn't exist, then you can use the hill, you can find different rocks, you can use your utility, you can use catwall, you can use caustic barrels as you're hunkering down to maybe use as a little bit of cover. You can use a horizontal to slow them down. You start to think about utility as a way to move your way into a fight. Don't use utility, and this is going to be the next chapter in terms of utility. Make sure that you utilize utility to either move you towards a fight or to get out of a fight. Now, make sure that you have the very big intention to actually fight if you're using a Q. If you're putting a Q as an example right here, you have every intention to fight. If you're using barriers here, you have very much the intention to hold. So make sure your utility is always an asset and that you have a very big purpose on why you're doing it and what your intention is. Those are very, very important. Now, this, I know, as terms of when we recap this, it's going to be a little tricky because I hope when you step away from this video, you start to just think of everything in terms of variables and making sure that it's not just simple as a pro telling you, and that's the whole premise of this video, of saying fight everything. When they say fight everything, let's recap. It means looking for information and whether or not you can play as a squad, okay? And realize that sometimes when you push things, that when you see your favorite creator do it, it might actually be because they're just doing it for fun. Because sometimes fighting outside a zone is not the most intelligent or the most logical play that could be at hand, especially when we gave the example that the zone could be pulling on the opposite side of the map and the zone is closing and there's still a lot of teams alive. So if we think about ALGS in terms of a format, everyone avoids each other because yes, there's money on the line. But when we're playing ranked, we don't necessarily have that factor in play, so everyone is going to play a little differently. So again, I can't stress this enough. It might need many videos. It might need 10 videos. Leave a like, a comment down below. I feel like this is one of the most important concepts that we all need to cover, and I can break these down into subcategories, but your comments and your feedback and how I convey this, because I'm just starting to really improve myself and how to teach this. And I lean on you as a community, and I can't preface this enough. I'm going to pin it in the comment saying that I need your feedback and how you want this information presented. This is we deconstructed why pros tell you to push. Now it's important on the concepts information on where we go from here. So let me know. I don't know if you can tell, I'm very excited about this. I had a very great conversation with someone from the comment section. Shout out to Crazy Squirrel. Keep in mind, this is a starting point. And I don't know if I'm going to do this perfectly, but I've thought this through, and this is going to be my first attempt at trying to communicate and really improve this. So if we step away from this and you're watching guides, remember, have fun. Please don't rage at your teammates. There's always misunderstandings when something desires a push to actually move in, to go towards something, and sometimes miscommunication can happen without a microphone. I encourage everyone to always to side on the side of fun. I say that twice. Go on the side of fun first, and then decide from there how you're going to play. Don't ever knock anybody's playstyle playing defensively, because it's not a wrong playstyle. Don't knock aggressive play. Remember, aggressive play means moving from cover to cover and playing intelligently. Pushing out in the open, I will never condone and say is a good thing. It's always a bad thing by running out in the open without information. Information is important, just as we full cycle. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm very excited as we move forward with the channel, going into the new season, specifically with Ranked. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys all very soon.